Hello, everybody. Welcome to Woody's Den. From me and Fred the Ted. Fred's my old teddy bear. He's been in the family for years. Look, poor old thing. His fur's gone all funny. Stuffing's coming out of his head. He's lost one of his eyes. But today's Ted's big day because we're going to take him to a teddy bear factory where they make new bears, but there's a lady there called Mrs. Taylor, and she's promised me a special favour. She's going to try and smarten him up for me. Isn't it funny that people, especially when they're young, like cuddly teddy bears? And believe you me, real bears aren't cuddly at all. Real bears are very fierce. You keep well away from real bears. So how do you think these fierce animals got turned into cuddly toys? Well, nobody's quite sure. But it was probably because of this lady called Margarete Steiff, who lived in Germany 100 years ago. She couldn't walk by herself because she got ill when she was a baby. Her friends and her sisters used to push her around in a little cart until she grew up and had a wheelchair of her own. She was very good at sewing and made clothes for people. But she kept on looking at the leftover pieces of material and wondering what she could use them for. One day she had a really good idea. She'd use the pieces to make toy animals as presents for her friends. Soon, these toys got so popular that her brothers persuaded her to make more, and she opened a small factory. And here she is, sitting in her wheelchair in her toy factory. One day, her nephew, Richard, came into the workshop. Here's Richard, with his handsome moustache. He'd brought her a drawing of a bear he'd seen in a zoo. Margarete set to, cut out a pattern, sewed it up and stuffed it with what we call sawdust. And she'd made her first bear. And the workers in her factory went on to make thousands of bears. Like this one. So that's probably where cuddly bears come from Margarete Steiff's workshop. But now, I'm off to the factory to see Mrs. Taylor and show her Fred the Ted. Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves a bear. Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves a bear. Well, here we are at the factory where they make teddy bears. And I'm off to see Mrs. Taylor. Oh, look. See the date on the gate? 1930. The 1930s, more than 60 years ago, when the factory started making bears. And Mrs. Taylor worked at the factory for nearly 60 years herself. Well, here's Mrs. Taylor. Hello, Mrs. Taylor.
Hello.
I've brought Fred the Ted to see you. He's a bit sad, Fred the Ted.
He is, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, he is.
Do you think you might be able to help him?
Creature. I'm hoping so, yes. I think we can do a repair job on him, yes.
He's quite old, isn't he? How can you tell that he's old?
Well, by the pads and the eye. The eye should be a locked-in eye.
He's only got one.
He's only got one, yes. We'll have to find him a pair and have them locked in, yes. And
so Mrs. Taylor soon saw that Fred was an old bear, especially because his eyes were dangerous. They weren't fixed in carefully like they are today.
Yes, it'll be a...
So do you think you'll be able to have a go at that for me?
Yes, we'll do our best, see what we can make of it anyway.
Well, while Mrs. Taylor gets to work on Fred, let's go and see how teddy bears are made today. I wonder how bears like this brand new one are made. Well, it starts off with a length of furry cloth on Barbara's machine. And a sharp cutter. Guess what's happening? What do you think Barbara's been making here? It's a leg. Look, we're going off to see the sewing machine now. The sewing machines. Much quicker than sewing by hand. See how fast the needle goes. And what's being sewn up? It's the leg. It's all sewn up, and it's inside out. It doesn't take long to get it the right way round. You watch. So how's Fred getting on all this time? Oh, the needle and thread for dear old Fred. What piece is this? It's still inside out. Can you guess what's happening? Let's turn it the right way round, and you'll see. It's a Ted's head, with his eyes very safely fitted in, not like poor old Fred's. We've got all the pieces. I wonder what happens next. Oh, Ted's getting his stuffing blown into him. This is the stuff for stuffing, Ted. It's not sawdust, like the old days. It's called polyester. And soon, the new Teds are nearly finished. What's going on here? Looks painful. Now, let's see if Fred's ready yet. I think he is. Oh, Mrs. Taylor, look at this. Look at Fred the Ted. Hey, he's a new bear. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
I think we'll take him back to Woody's den. Come on.
Good.
Bye, Mrs. Taylor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves the bear. Here I am, back in Woody's den, with Fred the Ted, looking good as new, even though he's still really an old bear. Now, there you are, Fred. You are not only an old bear, you're a famous bear. You're on the telly. You're a star bear. Well, some bears have been star bears for a long time, haven't they? Really famous. They've had books written about them, been on television. Here's a bear song I've made up. It's a puzzle song. I'm going to sing about famous bears, and you've got to guess which bear I'm singing about. Now, you can shout out the name if you like. Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves a bear. Now, first puzzle bear. Ready? He arrived at a railway station. The Brown family found him there. He wears a hat and Wellington boots, and his name is... Yes, his name is Paddington Bear. Whoa. Now, Paddington's been famous for a long time, but he's not as old as me, and he's not as old as Fred the Ted. Now, I know how old he is because my mum told me when he was made, in 1932. That's his date, 1932. And Paddington's got a date as well. His date is 1958. 1958. 1958 was when Michael Bond wrote the very first story of Paddington Bear. Ready for the next puzzle, Bear? See him fly through the air with Spotty, a Ted with his cloak outspread. Nobody's heard his magic word, and his name is... Yeah! His name is Super Ted!
Whoa! Super Ted! Whoa!
Now, Super Ted is quite young. Well, of course, you might think he's quite old, because he's younger than me and older than you. He was born on the telly. 1978. 1978. That's his date. We'll put him here. Sit up, Super Ted. And last, but not least, when he walks through a forest called Nutwood, adventure is in the air. He always wears his yellow scarf, and his name is... Yes, his name is Rupert Bear. Oh. Now, Rupert is the oldest of all our puzzle bears. You'd have first seen Rupert in a newspaper called the Daily Express more than 70 years ago, in 1920. 1920. He's much older than me, or Paddington, or Super Ted, or Fred the Ted. So now, we've got a line of Teds, from the oldest to the youngest. Now then, how did the teddy bear get his name? Well, I'm not going to tell you. This is a puzzle. I'm going to leave it to you to work out. But I will give you a clue. Here's a very famous drawing from an old newspaper. It's a cartoon. Here's a bear. Oh, look, a very small one. And here's a man with a gun. And he seems to be saying, "No, I will not shoot the bear." Well, now here are two more clues. The man was the most important man in America, and his name was Theodore. I wonder what's short for Theodore. Bye. See you next week. Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves a bear. Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves a bear. Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves a bear. Bears, 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 bears everywhere. Everybody loves a